Good evening, everyone, and happy Friday. I'm Mayor Pro Tem Tasha Harper-Madison, proud City Council representative of District 1 in East and Northeast Austin. Welcome to another edition of my bi-weekly live stream. We're calling it Talk with Tasha. We're coming at you every 2 weeks with critical conversations about the issues that matter most to you and me, because we're neighbors. Tonight, we have an absolutely amazing stable of guests. They are here to share their perspectives on the state of Austin's highly famous, but also highly fragile music scene. But before we get started, I want to remind everyone that we have some freakishly cold weather in store. The best place anyone can be for the next few days is inside warmth and safety of your own homes. I've been saying that for, the past 11 months now, thanks to the pandemic, but it's especially true right now. Do not travel if you don't have to. And if you do, make sure you bundle up and drive safe. If you're planning on driving, please plan ahead. Avoid stretches that ice over easily. Take it slow. Don't be in a hurry. Now is not the time. Also, if you stay home, but you find yourself without power, you can call Austin Energy's hotline at 512-322-9100, which, by the way, shout out to our Austin Energy folks. They've been out here all day, all night, right alongside our other first responders. Again, the way to get in touch with them is 512-322-9100. And for people who don't have the privilege of stable shelter during this Arctic blast, the city has another important hotline. That number is 512-305-ICEE. That is 512-305-4233. We'll post both of those numbers in the comment section, and I encourage you all to share them with anyone you think might need them. So moving right along, earlier this week, President Biden sealed on the deal on purchasing 200 million new doses of COVID-19 vaccines. And Dr. Fauci predicted that everyone in the country will have easy access to vaccines by late July. That's extremely welcoming news. However, July is still a long time away, and it'll feel even longer for anyone whose livelihoods are most affected by our social distancing protocols. So that includes everyone involved in Austin's world-famous music scene. We're closing in on a full year since Mayor Adler made the tough but life-saving decision to cancel South by Southwest. Our local stages have stood in silence ever since then. Artists, stagehands, venue owners, and everyone else in that ecosystem have taken it on the chin and then some. But as they say, life finds a way. And tonight, we're going to talk to a small crowd of performers and industry insiders about how they're getting by and what they expect in the months and years to come. And later in the show, we'll hear from Austin's Economic Development Director about critical lifelines the city is offering to struggling artists and venues. So first up, he wears a ton of hats, one of them being one half of the Hip Hop All-Stars, Riders Against the Storm, and another being the District 1 appointee to the Austin Music Commission, Mr. Jonathan Shaka Mahone. Thank you for joining us this evening.
What's going on?
Oh, we're out here just trying to do our best to stay warm right now and take care of our brothers and sisters who don't have the luxury. So busy, but counting those blessings. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate it.
Good to be here.
And so next we have a guitarist, songwriter, recording engineer, and producer who is also a co-founder of the Grammy Award-winning local Latin funk institution, Grupo Fantasma. We have Beto Martinez joining us tonight.
Hello.
Hey there.
Thanks for having me.
That's my favorite line every time. Now that we're in virtual world, can you hear me? Can you?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you for joining us, Beto. It's a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And she's an entrepreneur who has proven her dedication to sustaining local music ecosystems by doing everything from founding a student-run radio station at St. Edward's University to launching On Vinyl Media and Sound Sync Music. The inimitable Natalie Fan. Thank you for joining us.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. You look warm and cozy. See, that's what everybody needs to be doing right now, and something fuzzy and soft and warm. Thank you for being with us, and we look forward to digging into this conversation. I think it's really going to be super awesome to have some folks that I haven't met before and really get to hear about your stories and have you talk to the folks of Austin about, how things are going for you and the folks that y'all know. I think oftentimes we forget to take into consideration the wealth of information that's available just by way of the folks we know. So really looking forward to it. And last, but certainly not least, he's the founder and CEO of Mosaic Sound Collective, a major jewel in the diadem of District 1 that serves as a one-stop shop for resources and services for musicians, artists, creatives, with an emphasis on affordability, collaboration, and that's probably the most important word because that's the only way people get through challenges is by working together. So I really love that Dan and Mosaic are so intentional about collaboration and inclusion. His name is Dan the Man Redmond. Thank you for joining us. We really appreciate having you this evening.
Hey, it's great to see you and everyone else on the panel. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. I actually, you know how Facebook shows you those memories? One of my memory the other day was me visiting Mosaic Sound Collective and exploring. So it's serendipitous timing that we're able to get you on right now. Thanks for joining us, Dan.
Of course.
So you guys, I want to, really just keep the flow going, just ask y'all some questions. And whoever feels comfortable answering, do so, and feel free to skip over it and let the next person grab it. But I really want to talk to folks who, the creatives, the people who are producing, music and art and doing it under the circumstances of a pandemic and glean from you, how we as a community can do a better job of supporting you, how we as policymakers can do a better job of supporting you, but mostly how we as a community can do that real robust collaboration and make sure that all ships are rising. So it probably seemed unimaginable a year ago, but when did you realize that live shows wouldn't be coming back anytime soon? And how is it trying to cope with that? And I'll take anybody who's open to answering.
I'll dive in. It was last year, South by Southwest, we were preparing for a huge, we were covering the entire city with activations and, we had our own music festival we were set up to do and, all kinds of things. So once the pandemic hit, we were stunned. It just really hit us hard. And so with everything going on, rather than whining about it, we realized that we were all in the same boat. So it really became evident that we had to pivot and do everything we could to continue to support musicians and artists. But it was a struggle. So it's for us, we were able to pivot by going into a virtual live streaming and visual and video production programming. And it's been helpful, but we're ready to get through this thing.
Yeah, I can only imagine. It's one of those, hold your breath for a while, but then at some point you really got to figure out how to take a deep breath again. So I've just been stunned watching, my friends and family, colleagues figuring it out. And then, the others that are struggling, that are being so generous with their time and their talents and surplus, that they may have, sharing it with others. It's just a beautiful thing to watch, which, so on a personal level, and I guess on a professional level too, financial level, what does not being able to perform in person really mean to folks who, perform for a living?
So I guess I can add here that performing for me was really probably 90% of what I did. I have 4 different bands that I work with, and really seeing every date on the books basically drop off by the 3rd week in March was a big shock. Not only financially, but just, psychologically, seeing all of that go away. And this is what I do and I've been doing for 20 years. So there was a moment there, like, what happens now? What do we do now? And it took a while to sort of sort it out. And part of that was sort of wading through the resources that were out there or that were being slowly made available to help people who lost all their work. Essentially, I had never applied for unemployment or anything like that. So kind of navigating all of that. But then after getting a little bit of a foothold there, then just kind of figuring out, well, how do we move forward from here? And for me, it was really trying to delve into a creative space, because there was about a month of just kind of being in shock and not even having any sort of initiative to make music or anything like that. But then getting into kind of a role of getting back into making music and producing music, and then now at this point still sort of trying to find out how to get it out there, how to begin to replace all the financial loss from live music and to turn it into something else. And I think a really important lesson for me and a lot of people was about diversification. And it was a hard lesson to learn, not to say that that hadn't been happening already with a lot of people, but I think we sort of got pushed quickly into this realm where like the live music went away and now what are you going to do? So the last year has really been about trying to turn that around.
I appreciate that response. And it really makes me think about, over the years, having friends that played in various bands and at various venues across the city. I've done my fair share of roadie duty, and just thinking about some of the ancillary, circumstances that we find ourselves in. There's so much more that goes into the performance than just the performance itself. And I just sort of wonder, other than not playing, other than, not being able to play and perform, how's the pandemic really affected other aspects of the trade? For example, with recording and practicing and, some of the other networking, some of the things that you have to do that are a part of being a working professional musician.
I can take this one. I am not part of the live music realm as a lot of other people are, because I am a sync licensing agent, which means I deal mostly with recording and publishing. I think it's really important to think about where we were before the pandemic. We were still seeing issues with musicians getting fairly paid, especially musicians within marginalized communities. We were seeing venues barely, struggling to be open. So just as we're moving forward with this conversation and looking at this light at the end of the tunnel, finally getting this vaccine, finally being able to get back out there, I also want to kind of shift the conversation towards the musicians, because they are what makes the music industry. I think that as far as the recording industry goes, that's not going to go away. Music's always going to exist. It's just going to have different purposes at different times. That's just my view of things. As far as, live music goes, I have recently been, unfortunately, very aware that a certain music festival that happens usually in March has taken quite an aggressive stance against, in the past has taken an aggressive stance against unofficial parties. They've monopolized the month of March. They have in the past been extremely critical, to the economic development of the city, but it's time to ask, the $355.9 million that this conference brings into the city every year, how much of that is going to the musicians? So I just want to reframe this conversation, right? We are the live music capital of the world, but at some point in time, we need to start investing in other revenue streams, because this pandemic has burned down the one revenue stream that Austin has really relied on. We need to start focusing that conversation on other revenue streams: recording, publishing, sync licensing, things that can actually pay rent. I get along with most people in the music industry, but I know that some of my views may be unpopular with some of my colleagues in the music industry, but I am a firm believer in that this conversation needs to focus more on musicians, and more on support systems outside of live music if we have a chance at saving music in Austin, especially for Brown and Black communities that are facing affordability issues and gentrification issues.
I really appreciate that perspective. It's one of those things that reminds us that the art is much like everything else in the city of Austin. You know, we are in a period of reconciliation and atonement, and we have to get right everywhere. You know, there's no part of our community and our culture that goes unscathed with considerations around systemic racism and, you know, really deeply embedded generational inequity. And so we got a lot of work to do. And I think, you know, now is one of those times where, you know, our elders tell us, you know, in addition to figuring out how you're going to, you know, get through, now you got to figure out how to get it right, you know. And I really think a lot about this as an opportunity to get things right. There's no sense in trying to revive a thing that was damn near dead anyway, you know, and damn near dead, not because they couldn't, you know, the ubiquitous, they couldn't continue to, you know, take, you know, without reconciliation, but damn near dead because I think we as a people, I think collectively are moving in a direction where we demand better. We want more, we want better, and we want better for more people. So Shaka, I was really curious to hear your perspective on, you know, me, like a lot of folks, you know, you get accustomed to seeing certain people around and feeling a certain vibe and expecting certain, you know, certain activities. And when you don't get them, it's one of those things that, you know, we really don't think a lot about until we're missing it. And, you know, and I distinctly remember the night when I had to decide whether or not it was safe to go to Body Rock. You know what I mean? And I remember y'all taking the steps that you had to take and listen. I mean, full blown conversations with my friends, like, man, should we do? I don't know. And then, you know, and watching y'all have to take steps to protect your, I don't know that I ever heard y'all refer to folks as fans. I always hear family. So taking the necessary steps to protect your family. I really want to know how that's touched y'all, you know, not performing live and drawing that energy, because the kind of performing y'all do, you can tell it's this exchange of energy, which is really beautiful. I wonder what that feels like from your perspective.
Well, I mean, you know, I think our approach to music is just different, and I think over the long term, it's really benefited us because we really believe in being in control of our own destiny and not following the leadership or the direction of the past has gotten us into this situation. So, you know, having something like Body Rock is what allowed us to really make the art and things that we wanted to make to begin with. But we had to develop that family. We had to develop that community. This was not about getting Instagram likes or, you know, it was really about person to person, reaching people, affecting them, shifting energy and creating a space that was unique. That's, you know, lasted, you know, it's 11 years this year now. We haven't done a Body Rock anniversary, anything. You were talking about maybe doing a Zoom or something like that, but we've done a couple virtual Body Rocks in 2020. But, you know, our connection with our community is really what enables us to do any of the things that we're doing. And so, you know, the challenge that we face, like in taking it to another level, is really based on industry standards. But we're one of the few anything in Austin that can bring out 500, 600, 800 people a month. And we've been that for years. And so, like, we really focused on that. We didn't focus on you know, I mean, of course we had to market our stuff. We had to make posters and, you know, design and stuff like that. But we really just focused on our community, and we really gave them something high quality every month that they could really come and self-express, and, you know, gave them a space where, you know, you could see all the different communities of Austin, the queer community, the Black community, the brown community, everybody up in there, you know, really celebrating life. And that's really what it was about. So, you know, that family is what has kept us alive, and it's what makes us stronger. It's what makes, you know, DAWA and things like the Black Lives Music Fund possible, because people know, you know, they know us, and they believe in what we're doing, and so, you know, that's been our saving grace, and that's what we invested in. It wasn't a whole lot of tricks or a whole lot of, you know, being fancy with it. It was like, old school, just, we're here for you. And over the years, 11 years, people have responded to that with support, all types of support. So that's been our secret sauce to, for us. And I know, a lot of people are struggling right now. A lot of my peers are struggling right now, but that's why I feel a privilege to be able to, create something like Dawa, where, we can send out money to people that are going through struggles right now. And I think, tagging off of what Natalie's saying, like, we said enough. We know what the issues are. People need to be invested in. People that are creating things like Dawa, or creating opportunities for other people to have, safe space and things like that. They need to be invested in. Artists that are coming up that need development, they need to be invested in. We are the ones that are going to save the community. It's not the venues and things like that. No, there are people, there are organizations, there are things out there that are successful. And those entities, those folks need to be invested in. And so, that's what I feel like is really going to save us. If we keep looking to the folks that failed us in the past, we're going to get the same results, because it's based on a model that's not working. So, we need to look to leadership that, has proven time and time again that, they have something that's working, and invest in them.
I appreciate that very much. And I think it's that feeling, I think folks are inclined to say, can't wait to get back to normal, but we don't want to get back to normal. That didn't work. It was broken, and so, I'm sure it feels frightening, right? Change is kind of scary, but we really are in a very unique, let it continue to crumble, and let's rebuild it stronger than ever, with viable, fortified foundation that's built, that we build together, as opposed to, build it for somebody else, And so that to say, I keep thinking about young musicians, folks just entering the industry, thinking about how, having grown up here, a lot of my friends that were entering the industry when we were 17, 18, 19, now we're in our mid 40s, and they're working artists, and they've, amassed following, and they figured out how to diversify, and, they have multiple revenue streams. But thinking about those early years for us, and the bad food we ate and the strange places we slept, just thinking about how is it going for those folks. And Beto, I'm not trying to call you out, but I am going to say that I did my fair share of jamming some grupo, and so I'd say we're probably right around that same place age-wise. For you, how do you see where we are now affecting, musicians just entering the industry, younger musicians, people who are looking to enter the profession? I wonder what kind of long-lasting impacts their barriers right now will bring, and what kind of effect do you think that'll have on the industry as a whole?
I think it's definitely different, and it's changing, and it may not seem like it right now, but perhaps in an advantageous place where they're not going to be relying on the structures that were in place previously. And I do sometimes honestly feel a little bit like a dinosaur here, because we've been doing this for so long, and a lot of times what's comfortable to us is what's been going on for a long time. And I find myself, especially now, trying to navigate our way out of relying on the way things were. And it definitely has to change. But I think younger musicians coming in, like I said, might ultimately find themselves in an advantageous position, because they're not relying on the old way of doing stuff. They're moving forward with what's available now, and perhaps they're building a more interesting, a more connected online presence. They know how to interact with people in that way more so. I think eventually we will get back to making live music, but in the interim, I think the people that are more familiar with working basically with what we're presented with now will eventually be advantageous. But we do have to work to sort of amend these structures and to provide opportunity and investment in new ways of thinking. So I agree, with what Natalie and what Shaka have both said, that it is time to change, and it's time to look at things in a different way.
I appreciate that very much. And, it brings me back to something that Natalie said, and Shaka said also when he was making reference to, which, by the way, Shaka, I hope you will make sure that we throw into the chat information about DAWA and the Black Lives Music Fund, and give people the opportunity to support both of those efforts. But, they were both talking about equity and, the industry having the opportunity to really recognize that there are, communities of musicians who are traditionally marginalized and continue to be marginalized and sort of not at the forefront of making decisions around the distribution of opportunity. And I can't help but think about how many conversations I've heard where, the conversation is about Austin being male dominated in multiple industries. I hear it from friends in restaurants. My chef friends also, have a similar contribution to the dialogue. But I'd like very much for, to talk about, what it is that we're doing or need to be doing for communities that that don't always get included in the larger conversation. Are there support systems for those artists who really just don't fit the conventional mold, so to speak, or who have traditionally in the industry in this town been sort of left behind when it comes to prosperity?
Yeah, I think there are support systems that are growing. There are things that are in place. There are people that specifically focus on that group and have focused on that group. We did a festival for 6 years in the city when way before articles were being written about the problems with diversity in on stages and things like that, bringing Black and brown women and putting them in the center of the equation with Ross Day. And there are many things happening in the community. I just feel like the leadership tends to only, it's like if you just look over here and you say, it's like, when people talk about, we can't find any eligible, people for the jobs. Like, no, they're here. You're not, it's mediocre, the attempt that you're making to represent all of Austin music. So, don't be afraid of the voice that's challenging you. Welcome that voice in, because that voice is the voice that includes more people. And so we don't just need representation. I think we need people that actually care and are committed and are intentional about creating opportunities, because representation, we got representation in Senate and Congress, and a lot of those people don't represent us, the people that work day in and day out. Representation is not the issue. The issue is the intent and the focus and the commitment and the dedication to change. And so I think, we need more people in positions of power and leadership that are looking for these voices and giving them creating opportunities for them.
I appreciate that very much. And I really look forward to you stepping up on the Music Commission. It's one of those opportunities for the voices of the people to be heard. I think oftentimes we overlook how many areas there are for folks to give back. So, pretty shameless plug right now. We have some spots open on boards and commissions. A lot of folks don't know this, but it is a fantastic way to have your voice heard and to be able to advocate for your community. Oftentimes our boards and commissions directly affect the policy that gets passed through city council. So if you got a little bit of time and the desire to serve, feel free to reach out to us at the District 1 office. That's district, the number 1 at austintexas.gov. We'll give you any information you need. There's 62 boards and commissions. And so everybody's got some way that they can give back in this city. And we need everybody to step up. So real quick, I wanted to ask you, Dan, I know because you get the opportunity to see it from all the angles. I wonder if there's anything that we're missing, not just from a policy perspective, but the community. I see a lot of folks going to virtual shows and they're making sure to tip, which, by the way, that, is something that I do appreciate, that it feels more difficult for you to enter a room and leave that room without leaving some gratuity behind. So I really appreciate, the accountability of this virtual system on tipping. But other than, that direct sort of, still appreciate the art and make your financial contribution. Are there ways that you're seeing that maybe we're not seeing? Are there struggles that musicians are having that maybe we're not seeing that you can help us really key in on with your, unique perspective?
Yeah, I'll say, it's great to have local leadership like we have at the city level, and great to have a music commission that's being led by, an activist and leader like Shaka who's really addressing a lot of the important issues. You know, it's ironic that we have a city that's trying to protect and preserve for musicians and artists and creatives, while the state seems to be giving larger and larger incentives to organizations like Tesla and Oracle and Apple that aren't giving back to protect and preserve, you know, our city for creatives. And, you know, my biggest fear is that we become just another big city because of people that are coming here for the way of life and this wonderful city we have, but they're forcing out the creatives who built this city and, you know, the vibrant community and the equity that we had. You know, and I'm really hopeful that this is an opportunity to reboot and look at this as a true DIY opportunity where, you know, we're helping each other through collaboration and get rid of the competitive nature of the industry, which has always been so rampant here. So it's great to, you know, support all that we can. And, you know, I think we can all do more to focus on equity, diversity. I know we can focus more on equity, diversity, inclusion, and focus on the next generation of creatives. But, you know, I think that we have to address the issues of socioeconomic inequity. And I think that issues like homelessness and affordability and affordable housing are things that they're not going to go away anytime soon if we can't, you know, find a way to truly address it at the local level, but also at the state level and national level.
You're absolutely right. And I think there's a lot of folks who might not be able to see the connection between a conversation about music and musicians and, you know, the preservation of that effort in our city and affordability and homelessness and housing, you know, and or the lack thereof, transit and transportation, you know, they're all directly connected. Natalie, did you have anything you'd like to close us out with this evening?
Yeah, just one last note on that, on breaking down these barriers to entry for young people, for marginalized communities. We have to start thinking about the current leadership right now and their responsibilities. And I have been a part of this music community for, you know, 8-9 years now. And this entire time that I've been here, I've been blessed to have met so many people. But the difference is that, you know, I got lucky with my connections. And it is all about connections. It's the people that you know in music. And that's not unique to Austin. That's everywhere. The problem is that sometimes the people with the power take advantage of this system. They take advantage of that power that they have, especially over musicians. Just to, I don't want to beat a dead horse or anything, but South by Southwest, again, I expect greater amounts of responsibility when it comes to leadership. They are the largest conference in Austin, hands down. Yet, why are they trying to make artists sign radius clauses? You know, as it was revealed about a couple of weeks ago, they tried to make artists sign radius clauses to prevent them from playing live streams for a month and pay them essentially nothing, or I think $200 for your entire band to play. You know, that in a pandemic is something that we shouldn't let institutions like that set a precedent. We should not let people treat musicians as a lower class. I'm gravely concerned with this. This is why I'm so passionate about it. We cannot let leadership go in that direction. They've shut down the streets. They've made everything private. They've monetized everything. And people who live in those neighborhoods sometimes can't even afford to attend these parties that are in their own backyard, you know, pre-pandemic. But, you know, there's a great responsibility with people with power. And I just want to remind everyone that I myself, of course, have the privilege of being in the position that I am. But every single day I wake up and I think, you know, I have to use this power responsibly. I have to help everyone that I can. And I should not take advantage of musicians. And I know too many stories of this happening. So I just thank you for inviting me on to talk about that.
Thank you for being here and for your candor. We really appreciate it. I'm sorry.
Can I publicly thank Natalie real quick?
Absolutely.
I'd just like to thank her for her support. You know, there was a time where there was some divisiveness going on when things were talking about supporting the Black community and some of the issues that we were facing as musicians. And I just want to thank her for taking a stand and really standing with us instead of separating and becoming joining another thing that was going on, which was really not about solidarity. And so, like, when you create opportunity for the most disenfranchised, then everybody benefits from that.
Absolutely.
Everybody benefits from that. And so it's really important that, all groups of color, all communities of color recognize that the most marginalized must be supported. And from doing that, you support yourself and you support the entire planet. So I appreciate you taking that stand, Natalie, at a time when, there was this kind of infighting or just separate tribalism type of thing that's going on. And so I just want to salute you for that.
Thanks, Shaka.
Thank y'all both. I appreciate being here to witness the beauty, and that appreciation. And we're about to close it out, but I wanted to make sure that we get the opportunity for anybody watching to know what everybody's up to. If there's anything that you got going on coming up that you'd like to plug, now's the time to do it. I don't know if y'all can see the same order that I do, but it would be Shaka, Betho, Dan, and then Natalie to close us out.
I want to encourage people to donate to DAWA, Diversity, Awareness, and Wellness in Action. It's supporting artists, social workers, people of color that are giving in our community. We call it giving to the givers, to the community frontliners. We've given over $60,000 away in the form of $200 Visa cards, and we're still doing that. Round 2 is still available. If you're in need, please apply at dawahills.org. Otherwise, if you have ability, if you have means, please donate, because all the money that we're getting is going out to the community. I also want to let people know about an event happening next Friday, thanks to people like the Mosaic Sound Collective, Six Square, and others. It's called Thankful, and it's a fundraiser for the Black Lives Music Fund. We've raised almost $20,000 so far, and we plan to give $50,000 in micro grants to 20 to 25 artists or collectives out there in Austin that have ideas for creating space for Black music in Austin. So check those things out. February 19th is a live stream. It's going to be on Six Square's Facebook page, on a YouTube page. You can, check it out, learn more about it at the Black Lives Music Fund website, blmf.zone. Thank you.
Thank you, Shaka.
I feel a little funny saying this after all of the work Shaka is doing that's incredibly altruistic and helping the community out. But I'm personally just working here from my studio, Lecha House Music, which is actually in Buda, and working on turning this into a small record label and just making as much music as I can, and working out and looking for collaborations, and just trying to keep doing this till we get back to live music.
Thank you. We appreciate you joining us too. Hey, Dan.
Hey, so we're excited about doing things like working with Shaka and the Thankful event that's coming up on the 19th. We've got some things coming up with Brownout and Grupo Fantasma, and we've been doing a lot of work with Black Pumas. We just were able to shoot them. That was on the Today Show a couple of days ago. So you can find us at mosaicsoundcollective.com, and we have branded our video live production and live streaming at Mosaic Livewire, which we're going to be launching next week. So stay tuned for that. And if your band is interested in doing something with us, or if we're safely socially distanced, which is one of the things we've been able to do, and working with Grammy award-winning producer Stuart Sullivan and a great production crew. So hit us up if you're interested in doing that. We're just trying to keep the music going until we can get through this thing, which we understand is going to be a while, but we have to do all we can to support the community, support the artists who, have made Austin what it is.
Thank you, Dan.
Yeah, so I just wanted to wish everyone a happy Lunar New Year. I do have another event right after this at 8 o'clock. I'm hosting a panel on the Asian American experience for Girls Rock Austin. So you can go and donate to them at girlsrockaustin.org. If you donate over $20, they'll send you some special merch and a red envelope. So I want to thank you again, and thank you especially Dan, Shaka, Betho, Natasha, all of you for inviting me on and talking about our very special music community.
Thank y'all so much. What a great show. So Shaka, Betho, Dan, Natalie, thank you all for joining us. I hope you'll be watching in the coming months. We have some really interesting stories and shows, and we're going to keep talking about the music and the art because it's critical. It's a part of our community. I mean, it is a part of our makeup and one of the better parts. So thank y'all for joining us. Really appreciate it. Hope everybody's able to hunker down and stay safe at home this weekend. Y'all take care.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, folks. More of that. So we have certainly done a whole lot of talk about the COVID-19 crisis this past year. But the city has also taken a lot of action. I've been watching my colleagues scramble and work like crazy, and we really all owe them a debt of our gratitude and appreciation for the hard work they've been putting in. From putting a moratorium on evictions to funneling millions towards childcare providers, we've been digging under every couch cushion to find relief for our struggling residents. That includes people in our local music industry, like some of the ones that we just had on. Last month, the Economic Development Department announced $1.3 million in grants to 67 Austin venues. It's part of a partnership between the city and the Long Center, known as the Local Music Venue Preservation Fund. So what is it? How is it keeping our crucial venues afloat? And what's next for it? Ask no more, because here to answer those questions and more is our very own Director of the Department of Economic Development herself, Miss Veronica Briceño. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. I'm happy to be with you this evening.
Absolutely. You know, I have the good fortune of being on meetings with you on occasion. And it's become my favorite thing to watch for is your cats. And so I was going to hold my breath and hope that a kitty appears.
I have no doubt that one of my 3 cats will make a cameo at some point in the segment.
I'm here for it. Your cats have clearly stated that this is their home, that they allow you to sit in and do the things you need to do from. So I hope we get to see them tonight. Thanks again for joining us. So, I mean, hopefully you were able to watch some of, our conversation with Shaka and Betho and Dan and Natalie. I mean, this is a lot of what you all have been talking about, thinking about. I'm watching the Economic Development Department work, and I know that you're being so intentional and deliberate with the work that y'all are doing. So I'm just curious, I mean, there's so much to ask, right? I mean, but you do this all the time, so maybe we'll just hit the high points. Can you tell us about the Live Music Venue Preservation Fund that I made reference to?
Absolutely. And I will start by saying we do music as a part of our department. One of the unique things about Austin and that I love about the city of Austin is that we see economic development as very robust. So not only is it your traditional economic development and looking at businesses and employers, but realizing that what makes Austin attractive is the things like we are the live music capital of the world, our vibrant music scene and so forth. So we really want to cultivate that. And even when we're not in a pandemic, we have our music and entertainment division, and those staff members are dedicated to serving our community and our local musicians and our live music venues. The Live Music Preservation Fund is an exciting opportunity to provide some much needed relief to our live music venues. Council gave us a direction to go down this path and approved our guidelines for the program in December. And it will be a total of $5 million that we'll be awarding to live music venues. And what I like about this is that it's unique. It's a 2-step program. So it's an initial $20,000 grant, which is what you were referring to a minute ago. But then for those venues that receive that initial first step, they have an opportunity to continue to receive relief of up to $140,000 over a 6-month period. So this is a unique program, and it really provides some long-standing relief, hopefully.
And how many venues did you say?
So we had 100 apply, and
wow.
We had 73 applicants that received the $20,000. We're now working through phase 2 and what that will look like. And we with all our programming, we're intentional about it. We want to make sure we're meeting the recipient where they're at. So in looking at the live music venue industry, we realize the needs are different. Some have been able to pivot, some haven't. And so we want to make sure that's why we're saying up to 140,000, because it might not be 140,000, but it might be that full 140,000 as well.
So I'm just curious, I'm certain a lot of folks are, how do you choose who gets the help?
So for the initial 73, it was we had the eligibility requirements very clearly laid out, and because there's really not that many when it comes down to it, live music venues in our city, if you qualified, then you did receive funding. So we really wanted to, with council's direction, focus on our tried and true live music venues that have made Austin the live music place that it is and destination.
I appreciate that. And that's one of those things, I'm certain it's on the site. You said, you know, the parameters were clearly laid out. I really appreciate just how informative, you know, y'all and APH do a really good job of just laying it all out so that folks can really follow through your rationale for how you made decisions. I'm curious, are there any limitations to what the venues can spend the money on?
Sure. So we're looking at eligible expenses for the calendar years of 2019 and 2020. And so it can include things such as rent, payroll, technology, software, sanitation permits, professional services, property taxes, and among many other items of eligible expenses. So really looking at those operational costs that help a live music venue stay afloat.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I keep thinking about you know, the difference between just giving folks money and then also having support services available. And I know that that's something that y'all are really intentional about. Can you, if you were to say, you know, sort of what people's top 3 support service needs are, do you have a general idea of that?
Sure. So I think where we're seeing a lot, or we're hearing there's a lot of need in our community, in our live music community, is on things like lease negotiation, maybe some legal assistance with discussions on that, looking at accounting services that can help in helping a business make some decisions about how to succeed with their business. So we're really looking at these professional type services. Another area would maybe be real estate advice, looking at the situation that the brick and mortar live music venues in, and how can we help them improve their situation.
That all makes sense to me. So I guess I'd also like to know, what does that partnership that, you know, I spoke about earlier, what does that partnership with the Long Center look like? How does that actually work?
We're really excited about that partnership with the Long Center. One of the benefits of the period of COVID is we've been able to enjoy some new partnerships with our community members. The Long Center, in this case, they have really taken the reins. They're working directly with venues in this program effort. They work with them from application to cutting checks, and they've really been the anchor for this program. And the added bonus is the Long Center itself is not open at this time, and so it provides an avenue for their employees to also contribute and be a part of the response in the pandemic.
And I bet that's good for everybody, right? You know, you think about the opportunity that you had, you know, to serve your community in a time of need. You know, that something tells me this is a period of time that none of us are ever going to forget. You know, I really keep thinking about being in a position of leadership in a time like this, you know, over things like policy or the economic development, you know, stabilization and recovery. You know, just keep thinking about, you know, how we're really, history will remember how we responded to the need right now. And, you know, that really does light a fire under me. I bet it does you also. You know, it's just been, you know, fast and furious. And then, you know, I think a lot about how you're having to plan ahead as well, you know, so it's not just what we do now. You're having to think about, you know, the if this, then that, you know, scenarios as well. And I can imagine that's pretty tricky. Can you say what the most challenging part about responding to the needs of our live music community, venues, artists has been? Like, what's been the biggest challenge? And then I think the other question I'd ask is, are there any ways that the community can offer some support?
So I think one of the challenges is because we are so we find the community so important to us. Just exactly what you said, right? We're leaning into this because we're public servants and we want to be a part of the solution, and this is why we signed up for public service. But I mentioned our music and entertainment division. Our staff and economic development are very work with our stakeholders on a day-to-day basis. So it has been challenging to respond and respond swiftly. But also we're human, right? So we're empathetic as well. And I think that's been hard for my team to be in that space, although they feel very privileged and blessed to be able to be in a position to respond. And remind me the second part of your question.
Oh, I asked, is there anything that the community should be aware of? Any ways that, community organizations, social organizations, individuals in the community can offer their support, their expertise, their services? Is there anything that the community can do to offer some support?
So we have really looked to the community to be a guiding force in the economic recovery. We are really listening to the stories. We're listening to people's lived experiences. Listening to the panel that you had just now, it was an excellent example. With every recovery program, we want to make sure that it's something that makes sense for the recipient and something that's going to benefit them and help them. It doesn't do us any good to put together a program that doesn't really speak to that. So we've been having focus groups. We hear feedback one-on-one. We also, the Music Commission, which the previous panel talked about, that's staffed by our department as well. So we are listening very intently, and we are open to suggestions. We want to make sure that this is a program that is helpful to our live music community.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And, I'm certain that the folks listening in, are really curious about, what things look like going into 2022 and 2023. So we'll make sure that as the year progresses, we check back in and just let folks know what else we're working on, what things we're, anticipating needing to work on in the future. I guess to close us out, we could just sort of talk about what other programs are EDD cooking up, to provide relief for our creative sectors.
Sure. So we, and I would refer anybody on two fronts to talk about the programs, but also to stay informed on what EDD is doing. Our website, atxrecovers.com, if anybody goes onto there, we not only have dashboarded each one of our programs of relief that we have brought forward this year, but there's also a way to sign up on our newsletter. And our newsletter goes out regularly and keeps people informed of what is coming down the pike and what we have accomplished so far. In our most recent newsletter, we announced the opening of our Legacy Business Relief Program, which will open up for applications next week. And this program is in specific industry areas, including art venues, including theater or performance venues, including live music venues, and also restaurants as well, and bars. I was trying to remember the last industry. But it's looking at those businesses that have been in place for over 20 years and in one of these industries, and really are why we call Austin, Austin. What are the things that makes Austin unique and really attracts people to our city? So for businesses in those categories, I encourage them to be on the lookout for that. I also would point to the federal government. The Save Our Stages relief program is underway through the SBA. They're not accepting applications just yet, but if individuals go to the website there to find out more information, there's no reason why a live music venue could not receive relief from us as well as the federal government. So I encourage our live music venues to take a look at that. And then just for our musicians, we've over the past year, we've had a creative worker relief fund that we've administered, a musician relief fund that we've administered. And then we've also had a creative space disaster relief fund that we have administered, again, for the physical location. So we're really trying to help our musicians as individuals and as well as gig workers across the board. You were talking earlier about doing your share of roadie work. The music industry is complex, and there's a lot of people that have been hurt by this. So making sure that we're covering them as well.
I really appreciate that y'all are taking that into consideration. I know there are a lot of folks who, have mastered their craft, and what they do is relatively obscure. There aren't a whole lot of folks that can do the kind of stage work and lighting work, and, festival planning is a really difficult job and requires a lot of, institutional knowledge to have that kind of, experience built up. And so I really look forward to us, even in the even in the with the consideration rather that we probably are looking at late summer, early fall before things are really kicking again, that we figure out some ways to not just help people to get by in the meantime, but we figure out ways to use those talents and skills. Even if it's, I keep thinking about, folks teaching, that kind of skill and talent. You think about the things that we really don't do anymore. And so they're highly sought after. So like watchmakers, for example, watch repair, the kinds of things that clock repair, the kinds of things that, aren't as highly sought after, but are extraordinarily valuable to people. So I'll be thinking of some interesting ways that we might be able to help. Was there anything you wanted to leave us with before we let you enjoy the rest of your cold Friday evening?
Well, to that point, I'm glad you brought that up, because we also at Economic Development look at our creative workers as how can we help them in our other divisions. So for example, we have workforce development, and our creative workers are part of our workforce. And so that is included in the realm of what we're doing in workforce development. We also, a lot of music venues are small businesses, and our small business division is providing coaching one-on-one. They're providing classes. And so I encourage our creative community to take advantage of those as well. And with any downturn, or, this one was the result of a pandemic, but often it creates an opportunity to pivot. And the EDD team is ready to talk about that as well. If an individual would like to engage with our team and talk about what a pivot might look like and how can we sustain. But at the end of the day, I'm hopeful. I think that, while this pandemic has revealed some very fragile pieces of our community, our creative community, it's also a time to strengthen and grow from those. And I think as we come out of this, we will see a stronger creative community in Austin. And I look forward to that. They are vital to our economic success as a city. So I look forward to what's to come.
I appreciate that optimism very much. And I also appreciate your passion. I know it just it's palpable. And so I know that does help to influence the good work that our economic development department is doing. So thank you for that. I appreciate it. So the City of Austin Economic Development Department Director, Veronica Braseño, thank you for joining us this Friday evening. We really appreciate your time and letting us know what all's going on, the cool things that we're working on. And we look forward to catching up with you again soon. Thank you for giving us some time this Friday evening.
Absolutely. Thank you. And I think you did catch a cat fight going on behind me. So
yeah, I knew something. I didn't know what it was.
A little bit of scuffling going on. Thank you so much for having me. We look forward to continue to work with you.
Absolutely. All right, folks. It's about that time. What a good show. Those were good folks to talk to. I really appreciate having the opportunity to hear about all the stuff that's going on in our city, and really just thinking, with a finite amount of time, where we can plug ourselves in. So hopefully it was a good one for you and you got some information that you needed. As always, if there's anything you didn't catch, feel free to reach out to us at District 1, that's the number 1, at austintexas.gov, or drop a comment down below, and we'll do our best to answer anything that didn't get answered during the course of the show. That does it for this week's installment of Talk with Tasha. We'll be back again live on Friday, February 26th, to tackle the tough topic of homelessness in the city of Austin. In the meantime, remember that the COVID-19 vaccine is here, but they are not here in nearly the kind of numbers that we need to get back to normal. We talked about that already, right? Austin Public Health is still prioritizing people in the 1A and 1B categories. And even then, the supply, frankly, is still too small. I encourage everyone to have patience and keep doing the things that we've all been doing for the past 11 months. Wash your hands, watch your distance, wear your mask. If you have any questions or concerns, you can always reach out to me, again, through that District 1 office email. That's District 1, the number 1, at austintexas.gov. So until next time, unfortunately, it's time to go. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay warm, keep it funky, and try to make it function. All right, folks, we're able to try to have a little bit of fun. Have a good one.